Welcome to the High Performance Edge, the podcast for contractors who lead with building science and want to turn that advantage into a stronger, more successful business. Whether you're in HVAC, insulation, solar, or home performance, we dig into strategy, sales, marketing, operations, hiring, and customer service approaches that power stable, more profitable companies. Hear from top contractors and industry experts as we explore what it takes to thrive as a very different kind of contractor. Here's your host, founder and CEO of Energy Circle, Peter Troast.
Greetings, everyone. Thanks for being here. Today's episode is about the case for specialist business models within the high-performance contracting ecosystem, how some of the most important parts of delivering an exceptional HVAC system can be better handled by a focused specialist. In this case, we're talking about ducts, the part of the system every good contractor knows is critical, but that poses real business challenges. My guest is Zach Ortwine of Southeast Clean Air Solutions in Richmond, Virginia. Zach started out as a duct cleaning company, but has evolved into something broader: duct renovation, airflow diagnostics, static pressure testing, fiberglass duct coating, all centered around indoor air quality and airflow. He's NCI certified, deeply technical, and very generous, training hundreds of other duct cleaners on how to do this work the right way. Here's why I think this conversation is so important. Duct work can be tough business. Capacity for duct repair rarely lines up with install capacity, and the HVAC economics we're all taught, particularly revenue per labor hour, disincentivize the slow, labor-intensive task of repairing a duct system. Zach has cracked that problem by being a specialist. There's a real lesson here about how comprehensive high-performance work can get done in the real world. Not always by one contractor doing everything, but sometimes by a team of specialists, each playing a position they're exceptionally good at and feeding work back and forth to each other. Here's my interview with Zach. Zach Ortwine, great to have you. Welcome to the High Performance Edge podcast. Really excited to have you here today. So I think where I'd like to start is let's just make sure we're all grounded in the business of Southeast Clean Air Solutions. You're known on the circuit and how I came to know you as kind of Mr. Duct. I don't know if that's true, or the king of ducts. And I think what I have come to learn is that your business is quite a bit more advanced and complex than it might look on its surface as a duct cleaning company. So why don't we start there? Yeah. Explain the business, explain what you do, and let's dig in a bit on that topic first.
Sure. So a little bit historically, I started duct cleaning in March of 2017 as a project manager at another company for a couple of years. In January of 2019, launched Southeast Clean Air Solutions with my younger brother and brother-in-law. And then from there, we've always been air quality focused first. That's our kind of background, our bread and butter. What I ended up discovering is that, well, I had heard that John per year at NCI. I didn't think duct cleaners could join NCI. John had reached out to me one day about a filter recommendation. And I said, well, if you're local, would you mind could I come over to your home? I just want to kind of show you how I go through my inspections and how I do things. And when he greenlit that opportunity for me, I'm thorough in my inspections even before NCI, but it was always like my particle counter, my FLIR camera, my inspection cameras, and just trying to get an understanding of the duct system's dirty. How do we get the stuff out if it can come out? Mm-hmm. And John helped kind of broaden my perspective to the performance side as well. A lot of the topics in NCI's performance contracting, like static pressure measurements, I was taking before NCI, but I didn't understand what to do with the numbers yet.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, never showed me how to measure static pressure at BREMAC, but I started taking those measurements and I would just write them on a piece of painter's tape and put it on the unit. And I'd be like, here's the date, here's the across the, return box, supply box or plenums, and across the filter, here's what I got. Leave that behind as like a little effort to show that even as a duct cleaner, I could at least take a measurement for that. And that was the kind of early side of things. As I got through John's training, finished the HVAC system performance training and certification tests and the air balancing training. And I think I got over 90% on both of those tests.
Not surprised at all.
When I was in their class, we were talking about airflow improvements. And in our duct cleaning world, we have these fiberglass repair coatings for internally lined duct systems and duct board. And so I had asked why they didn't have any mention of the fiberglass coatings in their literature. And no one in the class of like 20 students had ever, they had no clue what I was talking about. I didn't know how a product that I'd used for, I guess, 4 or 5 years at that point, no duct or no HVAC company had ever seen. So I reached out to David Richardson on LinkedIn. I just said, hey, had a great time in this class, like learned a ton, great value. But I noticed this opportunity that no one was aware of yet. How did duct cleaners become a tool in the tool belt of a high performance contractor to potentially solve air quality and airflow issues associated with fiberglass ductwork?
Mm. So it's an amazing story. And so today I know you call it duct renovation. You still obviously do duct cleaning, you do air balancing. You're kind of a go-to for various HVAC companies that you work with to be the duct person. So I'm curious, like today and especially in terms of where the business comes from, how much of it is direct from a homeowner versus how much of it is in some form of partnership with an HVAC company where they're turning to you as the duct guy?
Yeah, it's probably 40% HVAC partnership starts the chain link because the HVAC contractor I work with gives me their client and I take care of their client. And one thing that makes like a duct cleaning service that's really done well, different from maybe a traditional HVAC visit, is like I'm there all day. It's an 8-hour project that we're in one home for us in our region. Other duct cleaners might get 2 homes a day or 2 systems a day, that kind of thing. But it's a lot more interacting time with the customer. So we get to build trust and build a relationship with them over that time because it's also a lot of hard work and they see us grinding from sun up to, the entirety of the day. And they will generally, as we're showing them as we go through our process, and it's like, here's how the duct work looks now. Here's how our tools work. Here's how it's going to knock the dust off of the inside of your duct system. One thing I want to clarify on duct cleaning, it is the source removal of non-adhered contaminants from the system. So paint, mastic, things like that in the ductwork, it's not going to get out. It's going to get out things that are dry and that can be removed from the surface, kind of depending on the type of duct. But we'll show them kind of here's how this process is going to achieve clean ductwork by the end.
Yeah.
And as they've seen it throughout the day, a lot of times they've already called a neighbor, they've already called a family member that also lives in Richmond or someone nearby. And they're like, hey, I just talked to Claire and she wants to have her house looked at and see if she needs her ducts cleaned in it.
Yeah.
So it's like the initial client that was referred to me from an HVAC contractor then refers me to another one. I get to another one.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about this 40% slice of the pie for just a bit more now, because, what I've understand about the business is it's a two-way street. You are getting referrals from HVAC companies who know the work you do and perhaps don't have that capability internally, but you're also getting work direct to homeowners that require an equipment side of things, and you are referring back. So say a little bit more about that.
I'm going to bounce back to Everett at Breemac because he was kind of the first service manager that I would go do trainings with. After his company training, I'd say, hey, could you teach me about measuring static pressure? How do I know when to recommend a 4-inch filter versus a 1-inch filter? And I just dialogue and him showing me as if I were one of his technicians. And I'd say, how do I look for opportunities to refer you guys back work when I see things in the field? Like, what do I look for as a duct cleaner if I get that second link new connection and I see there's a kind of grimy, oily baseball red dirt film in the bottom of the drain pan, and that's not moisture removal. That might be a sign of a refrigerant leak. Those were the kinds of things that Everett had taught me early on in our first couple of years of business that I would go look for in my inspections, and always also to look for how do I bring it back to them, because they were our first referral trade partner in our company's history.
Yeah.
And then as I got better at identifying opportunities and kind of while I was there on site and text them, say, hey, I recommended a better filter because I got an air device monitor, but I started testing all the homes with them and would say, hey, particle counts were kind of elevated before we even got there. They weren't cooking, they weren't cleaning, they didn't have a candle going.
Mm.
But so I recommended they talk to you guys about a filter upgrade.
Zach, sorry to interrupt, but is in the situation in which you're referring, or that they're, one of your HVAC partners is suggesting you, what if any financial relationship exists?
No, no passing of money from hands to hands. I guess the financial relationship comes down to they let me have access to their client, their client bases that see when their technicians go and they find duct issues during their 2 hour service visit or 1 hour, kind of whatever time frame that they work. Then they'll refer me and I get to spend the full day of correcting those things. But when I find other issues, or when their neighbor comes and says, "What's all those bags out of your trailer? What are you guys doing? Will you come look at my system?" That's where I get to, I guess I would call it sniping customers away from the companies that I didn't work with to the ones that I liked working with.
Kudos to you for having this, very kind of transparent model and really being full disclosure about the financial relationship. But why have you avoided being a subcontractor?
I'm a subcontractor in the commercial and industrial world all the time as a third party duct cleaner.
Yeah.
But as far as like for an HVAC company where we just have, it's, I guess, always been like an old boys network, or it's like, hey, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of relationship. And it didn't have to go through all the tracking of which customer did I do how much work at their home and what I charge and any of that. It was all, if you take care of my customers, as long as I don't have callback issues, then we keep working together. And then as I'm out and I'm finding new potential customers, one thing for HVAC companies to consider: when people buy a new home, there are people who want a fresh start in their new home. So we're actually able to help them acquire the new home buyers in the city that want to have their ducts cleaned before they move in. It's a kind of weird market niche, but it's there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the business model, because good companies, high performance contractors in HVAC understand the importance of ducts. There's no question about that. And yet, from a business standpoint, dealing with the ducts can be challenging, right? It's pretty rare that an HVAC company has an equivalent capacity for install that they do for duct fixing, right?
Yeah.
And there is this kind of mantra in the HVAC industry of revenue per labor hour being the sort of one of the central KPIs that people drive to. And revenue per labor hour in the world of ducts is, it's not that good, right? And so
For some people.
Well, I guess that's what I want to get at is,
Yeah.
you've overcome that by being a specialist, and say a little bit more about how you've accomplished that.
It's natural as a duct cleaner to take the next step when I go to inspect a duct system and I disconnect the flex branch line to inspect the trunk line, for example, so I can get a good photo to show the client, here's what you got inside your ducts. I've now done the work of removing that branch line already. So for me to pull the inner liner straight and tight, or to disconnect it somewhere and add a metal elbow and reconnect on both sides, is something I do so frequently that it only takes me a few minutes. I mean, I've got a heat gun that I can go take over to the mastic and basically melt it off really quickly if it were sealed on tight. And that's even pretty rare. But for the most part, I can take the next step of caulking a vent boot before I put the register back in, or caulk a vent boot and put a better register back in. And it's very little additional labor. I've already done the labor of removing it, of removing the caulk or something that was around it if it was. Like half the work is already done by the time I'm starting, just to facilitate the service I already perform. So for me, the incremental add these little, I guess, service benefits that go to the customer and make a big impact are incremental additions on my business. That it's different for a HVAC company where they don't take registers and vents down every day. It's a little bit more of a burden for them to take that on as a project, unless it's like winter time and things are slow. So because it's an incremental step for a duct cleaner who's already having to do this to facilitate the service, it makes a lot of sense in our business model to say, while we're at that vent boot, let's just throw some mastic tape around the collar, put the duct back on correctly, let the customer see how much better that airflow got, show them what we did, like take a photo before and after and say, here, saw this duct was hanging like what I called a McDonald's M, with like Tim DeSazio, Chris Hughes, and Mike Cianfrocco at my first NCI conference. But I said, you had a rough looking install here. I fixed this one for you because I needed to
Yeah.
remove it for the inspection anyways. It took me about 5 extra minutes.
Well, I love this about it. I want to come back to these little test cases that you tend to do as like the first. Let me fix one thing and
Yeah,
see,
let's see what happens.
see what happens. Before we go there, though, do you like you are thanks to a specialization model, so thanks to being like the expert and really pushing the edge of how you do things, you've developed an efficiency methodology. How much more efficient are you? Are you twice as fast and twice as good as someone who isn't doing this all the time?
Maybe as a brand new technician, I'm much better at explaining things to the client than an average HVAC technician is. Here's what we did. Here's why we did it. Here's how this is going to benefit you in your home. Kind of following that explanation model. But as far as cutting a flex duct off the collar and removing the little bit of core that's on it that is all taped on, it can be a daunting task, but for the most part, it's not. And if it's terrible, I keep extra collars on my truck and on my trailer that I'll cut the whole thing off and put a new, like I'll put a conical damper on or conical takeoff instead that then factors that hole being cut out.
Yeah.
Save the time, save the labor.
Yeah.
So that is the improvement.
Okay. Do you see, is your, SOPs and your workflows and the methodologies you're deploying, are they just constantly getting better? And I guess where could this go in the future?
Yeah, I think there is a ceiling. Eventually you can only get so fast at certain tasks.
Yeah.
Like I can only remove a ceiling vent so fast, and I'm not going to be that much more efficient than my hourly helper that I can put on that task. But the things that are a little bit harder to do, like the tight attic spaces or the tight crawl space, that now that I've put in a lot of years of blood, sweat, and tears of being there till 8 o'clock at night or things like that, and learning, okay, this is how long a task like this is likely going to take me. Those are the areas where the efficiency gains they've come from hard lessons. I've got the blood scars to prove it, but now I know how to approach different issues. And oh man, that I can take on, but that's going to be a 4-hour task. Like that's going to suck.
Yeah.
But I can do it, but you're going to pay for it.
Right. Right.
And that's, I guess, in that sense, because I paid for it, there's where I have my efficiencies because I know what to charge for it.
Yeah. Well, I think that, like the willingness of, the success of your business and the willingness of people to, pay what you deserve is, as I think where I'd like to go next is, so, you said 40% was sort of in some kind of relationship with an HVAC company.
Yeah.
But then 60% is coming direct from homeowners. And you've mentioned to me in the past that most of that is word of mouth, right?
Yes.
So what I'm curious about is, is it straight duct cleaning that people think they need? Is it a bigger indoor air quality concern? Is it an airflow concern in a hot room situation?
Yeah. My phone rings most of the time, and especially earlier in the company, it was always air quality related. I've got a dusty house. I've got allergy symptoms. I've got a musty odor coming in. It smells like a dead animal got in my ducts. The whole plethora of something is bothering me in the home with the air. My ducts must be dirty. And that's kind of the initial assumption. As my phone started ringing more than we had like the capacity to get to, I would start to tell people over the phone, hey, do you keep your doors closed and you have a central return? Try leaving your doors open, see if that helps with your housekeeping over the next couple of weeks. If not, let's revisit this. Or I try and give them a little gem over the phone for free because I don't have the time to get out and get to them right away, and say, if you leave your home for a weekend, you go get an Airbnb out at the beach, do your symptoms go away? Like I want to figure out, I want you to do a little bit of homework as a homeowner for me and figure out, yes, when I leave home, I feel better.
Yeah.
That indicates an environmental issue, but that's at least worth selling an inspection to troubleshoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So diagnostic inspections let me give you the free things that you can do as a homeowner to see if that solves the problem. Sometimes it does. And then they'll refer me to their friends because I didn't try to sell them the duct cleaning that they didn't need necessarily.
Yeah.
Or it's like, man, yeah, that fixed everything. Thanks. I'm like, cool. So that was just a small trust building piece of advice over the phone that saves me a drive out somewhere.
Yeah. But it sounds like in a more complex indoor air quality situation where it's not just a leaky duct system,
Yeah.
There are bigger problems around filtration and potentially the need for whole house ventilation or things like that. You're not specifying that work, are you?
So when I go do a diagnostic inspection and I'm taking my air advice and I'm figuring out, let me see what's in your air. Like I call it an Apple Live photo for that flash report.
Mm,
It's a 30-minute report and it's like right here, right now, what's going on. And I'll let them know on the phone call, hey, on the morning of our appointment, could you maybe not cook on the range top? Could you not have your monitor in your bathroom while you're taking a shower? Keep it in a common living area where you spend a good amount of your time, your office, your living room, your
yeah,
bedroom, something like that. And don't vacuum for those like 30 minutes. Like the things that will create a false, not a false spike, but an attributable spike in particulates. I was like, give me the most normal operating conditions of your home
yeah,
99% of the time. So we'll see what's in it. And then based on what I see, I might say, wow, we do have a lot of PM 2.5. I wonder what's contributing to that. Are you leaving your car running in the driveway for hours? Are you have lawnmowers outside and everything like lawn staff that are a bunch of combustion engines that are burning fuel things? And I'll try to diagnose with them. And if they're like, no, then I'm like, let's do a multi-day test on the monitor. You may need to look at some intervention strategies to
yeah. And so
reduce your
in that
exposure.
circumstance, you leave the air advice for a longer period of time.
Yeah, and that I charge for.
Yeah, which you should because you got to go back and get it, right?
Yeah. And then I pass the info along to their HVAC contractor and I say, here, they're having like high particle levels. They had 1-inch filters at the walls. I recommended that they talk to you about getting a 4-inch filter at the unit.
Yeah. Okay.
Things like that.
So it sounds like you really have built, just because so much of what has been successful for you is this word of mouth concept, is you've built a real reputation as being like the go-to guy for things that are related to perceived problems with indoor air quality.
Correct. That and comfort,
Yeah.
like hot and cold rooms. I am a hot and cold room guy because of a lot of times vent upgrades will go a really long way to solving those issues. And we already pull vents down and put them back in. Why not put new ones in and not clean the ones that we had to pull down
Yeah.
and get the customer a comfortable room that they're happy with? And then they want to tell everyone about it because it worked.
Yeah. Well, this is the area that I'm really curious about because we know that there's a high volume of sort of consumer demand for duct cleaning, right? And that has resulted in duct cleaning being one of the sleazier corners of the internet in terms of of sketchy digital marketing efforts, alongside of locksmiths and personal injury attorneys, right? So, we talk a lot on this podcast about differentiation and about how this concept of being perceived as a high performance oriented company is a better business. How do you separate yourself from all the run of the mill sort of duct cleaning people?
Yeah. The biggest way is probably in the number of people that I tell they don't need their ducts cleaned.
Yeah.
I have plenty of reputation to say, no, that's not going to solve your problem. We want to solve your underlying problem. Let's take a measurable approach. Here's what's happening with your ducts. This return duct that slipped off the collar is the real reason why your system gets dirty so quickly. Maybe I'll clean it this one time, but I also need to fix this other issue that's the underlying cause so that this doesn't continue happening. I don't want to be a Band-Aid approach. I want to be let's get some stitches on it, let the wound heal, and take care of it for the long term.
Yeah.
And
And I think you are a user of the most advanced diagnostic tools out there,
Yeah.
which is very differentiated in the world of duct cleaning. Like nobody,
yeah, as my tool collection grows, so does my pricing structure because of my capabilities to solve problems.
yeah,
And I provide measurable solutions. Like I can show people, here's your before, here's your after, here's what we achieved, mission success. Or I misdiagnosed this and now I learned, and I'm not going to charge you the full cost of that because I misdiagnosed it. So I take personal accountability when I'm not right, but it's made me good at becoming right.
yeah. Zach, to what extent has the presence of all those tools and the use of those tools and, customers seeing you use them enabled you to increase your price structure?
Extensively. Yeah. Like when we first opened up, I was charging about what the last company I'd worked at charged for duct cleanings.
Yeah.
And even then, I think I was like 25 less because we didn't have our branding, like our name brand established in the first year.
Yeah.
As I was providing exceptional service and adding a couple tools to my tool belt, each year, I would then say, here, customer call coming in, hey, I can't comment to another company's pricing. I don't know their business model. I know one thing we do differently is we measure air quality. Can I send you a sample report? And I'd text them a air advice report or email it to them and say, none of the other duct cleaners that I know of do this.
Yeah.
So we're really trying to take measurable approaches to solving your problems and verifying that we were successful in that. And then as I've added tools and training and knowledge to my skill set, and then, hey, here's how we changed the airflow from this vent to this vent. Can I show you? I'll send you a 1-minute video that shows how I did this. And it worked really well in my home. I think it will work really well in yours. But, do you want to have a diagnostic inspection done and we can test it while we're there and I'll show you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we can get them changed out.
Yeah. Well, Zach, this conversation is confirming what I knew before. You're a unicorn. But I guess what I at the same time, the methodologies you're using, you could teach people. And so
yeah,
what would you say to somebody who might be listening, who's like, hey, there's a really interesting niche business opportunity here to sort of be the Zach of wherever, they're located. Do you agree with that? And, do you have any future aspirations to kind of help people do that?
I've trained over 100 duct cleaners at this point.
Yeah.
I let people come and train with me in Richmond for free, or they can pay me to come somewhere else to train with them. But I want the industry to advance in an ethical way that adds to our credibility from doing things in an ethical way. So I want to show them the right way to do things. But really, it's very scalable to other markets as well. There are some differences, like in a Midwestern basement climate where it's all cold weather and all the ducts are more encased in the sheetrock. That can be a little bit different or a little more challenging for some of like the flex duct upgrades that are common in my area.
Yeah.
But there are still opportunities for, I guess, higher efficiency fittings or lower loss, lower TEL fittings that they can offer once they learn how to look for them.
Yeah.
Or that they can offer like the true flow testing and forecasting. That's another unique service that I'll do is
really?
I've gotten five estimates from 5 contractors and they're all different and I don't know who to trust. I'm like, here, I'm not selling any equipment. I don't care who you pick. Here's how to learn which one will who's made the best recommendation for your needs. And because I have a couple of trusted contractors that I work with, let me text them your home's Manual J, or let me text them your home's TrueFlow and the equipment that's there right now. And on your duct system, do we need to maybe prioritize a couple of repairs on that before you put the new equipment on so that things work right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I could text them and get them 3 or 4 more estimates remotely because I know how to collect the information that each of these companies needs to know.
Yeah.
And I'll say, here, you just went from 5 to 9. And I just saved you $1,000.
Yeah.
Offset the cost of the inspection.
And so I can imagine the HVAC business owner listening to this saying, I got to find a Zach because this is like
like a third party.
Well, and it's so I hate to use the word symbiotic. It's such a win-win between they need you, and what you're doing for them is so beneficial to the contractor and the credibility you have with the customer by saying I have no financial stake in any of these relationships. It is just to me. And why I wanted to have you on was that it's a pathway towards really delivering high performance work and overcoming a lot of the business barriers that exist.
Yeah. I don't have like the comfort advisor stake and money to make off the sale of the system. I make my money off of the price of the inspection. I do charge for my time and I do make money, but I do it in a way that helps the client measurably make a smart decision. And I say, here's what your equipment needs to incorporate and plan into your duct system modifications if you want it to not have the blower blow out every couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or,
Zach, thank you so much for coming on. Is what you've accomplished is really quite extraordinary, but even more to the point, your generosity of explaining what you've done and your willingness to teach people and be a trainer is really quite exceptional. So really, really glad to have you here and thanks for all that you do.
Thank you for having me.
The High Performance Edge podcast is brought to you by our company, Energy Circle, the marketing agency that for 15 years has served the most successful high-performance contractors in the country. Curious about whether we might be a good fit for your marketing and website needs? It begins with a no-obligation, no hard sales discussion of your business and goals and an honest assessment of whether we can make an outsized impact on your company. Check out energycircle.com or email me directly at peter@energycircle.com.